Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so this is our first time talking. This is our 90-minute first initial consult. How'd you find me?
YouTube first, and then I am on your Patreon, and I've read most of your book already. So.
Yeah. So what was it that made you go, I should just do it? What was it?
Well, I just joined a group last weekend on Facebook, and it's I don't know if I should say names, but it's like a Beachbody kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when I thought, I've got this under control, and I can just use this to get the weight off, and then I've just been thrown back into a binge.
Yeah.
And I've listened to you probably, I don't know, it must be like 2 years now, and just keep putting it off and putting it off. I'm like, no, this is enough.
Well, sometimes I think people need to, when they listen to what I'm saying, it seems a little, it can seem a little extreme, or, oh, well, those people need that. Those people, the people you're listening to, it's easy to separate yourself from what they're doing and just say, but it's not for me. This is helpful. It's good to hear. But you know what? My situation, my body is so much worse. I can't just surrender it, and I can't just let this go. So there, you've been maybe listening to this for years, but it's never really maybe sunk in until you suffered enough. You had to continuously suffer to realize maybe I do need to internalize what I've been hearing in these YouTube videos.
Yeah.
It's painful, isn't it? Just terribly painful.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I have a lot of compassion. I get, when you spend, well, it's because it's so bad. I mean, when I got your, consult request last night, I was just like, oh, I just felt I just felt it, because you had said, I have been binging every meal. And I just went, oh my God, I have been there. I have been there. There, at my worst, I binged every time I ate and purged every time I ate. So it was like 2 insanities occurring at one time. But the binge nonetheless is the same as what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're just doing it. Your purge is maybe not puking it up. It's the I will diet. I will diet. I will fix this. I won't eat this anymore. I'm going to get rid of it. There's this. It's almost like you're surrounded by this cloud of deprivation. It's not just, I was trying to write about this yesterday, and I'm actually still on this one paragraph figuring out how to explain this, but when someone is in a binge eater, or someone that's, gaining a significant amount of weight, to where their body is physically limited, it's hard to explain to someone who doesn't understand this, but the binge eater is surrounded by deprivation. It's almost like a cloud of restriction that you are afraid to breathe in. And so instead of breathing in the restriction or diet, you end up just shoving food in your face to distract you from the panic, complete and total panic of being deprived, because it feels so overwhelming. It feels so overwhelming. It's like going to crush you. And it's very different than the clients that I work with that are anorexic. They get the same exact feeling, but it's being fat that makes them feel that. For you, it's restriction. It's the same thing, but on the opposite side of the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
You both want the same thing, right? You're just, the binge eating side of it is you're stuck in survival mode with food, right? Whereas the anorexic is stuck in survival mode with their narcissistic superiority. They won't let it go because of the attachment to thinness that they're getting. That narcissistic supply from. So they won't let go of the narcissistic supply of thinness, and you won't let go of the animal supply of food. But you want what the anorexic has, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to explain this, to look at it, because the way it's been described in eating disorder research or in the past has been that they're totally different things. And I think they're the same thing. It's just, are you failing at it or are you succeeding at it?
Yeah. I had an incident yesterday. I don't know if this helps the situation, but I was going to get some lunch with my son at Chipotle, and we were walking past, and there were these two women sitting at a table out front, and they were both very, very thin. And the one was telling the other that they needed to walk to the garbage can because that was the only exercise they were going to get for the day. And I had this weird, overwhelming feeling like they probably didn't even see me. I don't know, but they were judging me, and I actually felt like they had a right to do that because they were thinner.
Yeah, and you're saying this to me, and you know intuitively that was you being the dick. You're the asshole, right? They didn't give a shit about you. They were laughing at each other because they were expressing their laziness, and their judgment of themselves, and you were like, they think they're so much better than me. Yeah. But that's how you think. And that's how, if you look at this, if that's how you're thinking, no wonder you're having mental health problems.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You're thinking that you're that disgusted with yourself. It's not them that were disgusted. That was you. You were projecting your disgust. Right?
Yeah.
And it's so hard because is it really you that's disgusted, or is it the culture and the cult of thin supremacy that's disgusted?
Right.
The sad thing is you just bought it. You bought it. And so you get to feel disgusted because you've internalized it as a sacred truth that is not questionable, and this is like religious indoctrination. Anybody who is brainwashed by fear of shame and the illusion of pride, this is the downside. You're clutching onto this idea that thin people are superior, and the downside is that if you are not that, you are inferior, and it sucks. So I mean, the suffering involved in this is just so dark. And what's sad about it too is it's not even real. And that's another thing. Can you get a sense of none of this is real, but yet it is detrimental to the life I'm currently living in my reality. So there's this incredible, impulsive, it feels like it's hardwired, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm just stuck in it. Yeah. I can't break through the wall.
Right. Well, the problem is it feels like it's hardwired, and so you might not be questioning that that's true, but it's actually just it's like a floppy disk. I'm aging myself right now by even saying floppy disk. How old are you? I don't even know.
I'm 40.
Okay. Oh my God. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or whatever it is. And it's in your hard drive, and all you got to do is push eject.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's so awesome. So if you've been watching me for 2 years, you have heard enough people say, holy shit, that was easy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but that's it? I'm like, yeah, you push eject. That's it. So how do we do that? Well, you have to surrender what you get from that shitty ass virus infected piece of shit disk that you put into your hard drive.
Yeah.
You have to reject it. You have to say, even if someone said, I've got a nice disc that will make you thinner, you have to say, yeah, I'd rather not. Why take my entire space of consciousness and awareness and fixate it on a tiny little speck of awareness around I'm thin?
Yeah.
So you have to reject it. You have to surrender what you get out of it. And that's the hardest part, is when people push eject, they're essentially saying, I'd rather just not have what this is promising me. I don't want it anymore. I'd rather be empty. I'd rather have no wiring. I'd rather have nothing in my hard drive. Right? You know, if you think of it this way, the only way to do that as well, it's not just to give up the illusion of that disc, the virus infected disc that is saying you'll be superior. It's that you have to accept the reality of your hard drive, right? Your reality, right? So it's the illusion of something better than you have in exchange for what you have. Getting rid of what you wanted getting rid of the illusion of something better than what you are in exchange for what you are. Does that make any sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm just trying to get it in here.
Well, don't force it. This isn't, I don't expect this to, it may or may not click for you immediately. So the reality is, okay, so if I were to guide you through where you need, let's go this way first. What do you want? What are you looking for? Are you looking for thinness? Are you looking for weight loss? Are you looking for relief?
I'm looking for relief, and then at the same time I have these like ridiculous visions of, I'm gonna feel better, and then I'm gonna stop binge eating, and then my body's gonna fix itself, and I'm gonna be thin. So what in the world? It's like a hamster wheel.
Well, I think, let's go into that thought process and question if it's true.
Yeah.
Question if that's even logical or true for you to get. Is that even realistic or possible? You know, because what you're saying is I want relief and then I'll get what I want.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have a wanting for that thinnerness, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the wanting for that, you're thinking, the way that, and you're so normal, by the way. So many people come to me thinking, okay, I have this insanity with food. It's the food and I got to do this. I'm sick of my weight. It's horrible, blah, blah, blah. And you think that once we fix your issues with food, that then you'll lose the weight and everything's going to be like a win-win. I'm going to get to be thin and superior and not have any consequences for the narcissism. Yeah. So let's go in and look at this. I truly believe by the time someone reaches out to me, there's enough suffering and misery that you have the wisdom to actually know what's going to happen. If you hold on to the wanting for thinnerness, it doesn't even matter how big you are. That does not matter. Right? I don't even know what your weight is. All I know is whatever it is, you're unhappy with it. Whether you're 150 pounds, you're unhappy with it. Or 200 pounds, you're unhappy with it. Or 250 pounds, you're unhappy with it. And when you were 200 pounds, you were unhappy with that. And when you went down to 150, you were unhappy. So that's all we need to know is you were deprived and it was all relative, and you constantly live in a state of relative deprivation. No matter what size and weight you are, you're constantly in a position of hatred of your body, period.
Exactly.
Okay, so with that said, if you hold on to the wanting of thinnerness and everything that you've got attached to it, what will happen if you control your food? What will happen when you start to lose weight and lose the weight? What will happen?
Well,
as you lose weight, as it happens. Let's just go into what's going to happen as it happens.
As it happens, okay, so I start feeling like I'm superior, really. Last week when I started that group and started exercising, I felt like I was walking around like a better person because I was doing that.
Yeah, that's the narcissism, yes.
Oh my gosh. And then this is just even a small little time, this 1 week, where it just went back to a full-on binge again.
Yeah. Okay. So,
wow.
Yeah. So what happens if we want to take yourself out and just watch this, observe it, let's witness it. So as a student, just as a student of this, so there's no forcefulness. I'm not trying to get you convinced of anything. Let's just look at from the student's perspective as the witness of it. If you hold on to a want for thinnerness, and let's just say we get you to eat to hunger, and you're eating freely without shame and guilt, blah, blah, blah. If you want the thinnerness, as your body loses weight, because of the wanting of that, the weight loss becomes really gratifying, doesn't it?
Yeah.
to that narcissism, becomes a supply of superiority. What happens when that feeling arises to your perspective of food? As you are losing weight, what happens to your relationship with food?
I start getting scared of it.
Oh, yes, right? Because it becomes a potential threat to your narcissistic supply. Food now is bad. So, yeah. So that narcissism is very insecure.
Wow. Yeah.
You know? So it's constantly looking for, it becomes paranoid. Narcissists are paranoid, constantly trying to position themselves in defense of what they think they need to feel superior, inflated. It's such an inflated idea of your value. So, that inflation as you lose weight because you want it for whatever reason you want it for, is projected into an inflated sense of threat and vulnerability with food. So as food becomes scary, threatening, what is the natural reaction anybody would have to that? What are you going to do if food becomes scary? What's a natural response to get rid of the fear of food?
Start restricting and saying no to certain things.
And positioning it as bad or good, and you go into that dualistic state of survival mode around it's threatening me. Food. The number one survival need is now under threat.
Wow.
And then, especially if it's irrational, it's not real. You're not going to die. It's not poisonous. It's just it's like the idea it's bad for you that you were taught from some diet anorexic system that's fear-mongering you into doing what they say. It's just it's like threatening something that really doesn't threaten anything.
Yeah.
And you're aware of that. But you believe it because of the thinness only. If you were never going to be thin again, would you believe any of that shit?
No.
I know. Wow. So it's just this weird illusion of it's only relevant if you want to be thin, right? And so it becomes very relevant that food is bad for you. So when you eat it, so the first thing that happens when food is becoming threatening and I need to tiptoe around it and we need to compartmentalize it into bad and good and dualistically, separate ourselves from it. What's the first thing that happens? Especially with food you're not going to be eating ever again. What happens?
I want it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is understandable too. It's like, take any human being and say, you'll never have bread again. What do you think they're going to do until the moment they implement the restriction? They're going to be shoving bread in their face at high quantities, rapidly.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, shit, I've already gaining weight right now, so I might as well, as much as I can, get in whatever else I'm going to be restricting. And there's your binge.
Yeah.
Boom. Oh, I suck. I failed. So the next day, you're like, all right, here we go. We're going to restrict. And you get all high on yourself when you start the restriction until the moment you don't restrict. Then what happens?
Yeah, and then I've fallen off the wagon, so I might as well just go the whole blasted binge anyway. So, yeah.
Because at some point I'm going to restrict all this and fix what the damages I'm doing. So you're aware of the damages you're doing to the body as you're doing it. But you're okay with it because you, in your mind, think that the damages will get fixed. If the damages weren't going to be getting fixed, you wouldn't do it.
Wow.
So then the reason you're binging is because you believe at some point, whatever damages you're doing that you're consciously aware of and okay with at the time, you think that it will get swept under the rug.
Yeah.
So you become highly, and so it's almost like a contract that you make with a diet ahead of time. No one binges unless they have a contract with a diet for some future date. It doesn't even have to be immediate. Some people, because their life feels overwhelming, they make the contract with the diet for years forward. So they're willing to gain a shit ton of weight, knowing that at some point when my life is not as chaotic, I will have the energy to manage and control my food to get rid of this weight, whether it's 50 pounds to 100 pounds or 200 pounds or more.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I quit my job because I thought it was going to make it easier.
Well, that would make sense to me because you're dealing with such a primitive and primal response to deprivation that to be successful in the long run, you have to isolate yourself as if you live in a third world environment or in famine, Wow. So you're in this really weird primitive survival game, and it sucks. There's nothing good that comes out of this outside of when this is over, you'll never do it again. It's like, who would you wish this darkness? Who deserves this mental darkness in the world?
No one.
No one. Your worst enemy. Just terrible human beings do not deserve this. This is such horrible. It is hell. You are in hell. Hell does not exist in the afterlife. It exists with your life. It's like, imagine you're alive and in hell.
That's how I feel.
I know, me too. Time. It's terrible. And you're supposed to do this for what? For someone's approval? For a fleeting moment? For a fleeting moment of people going, wow, she did it. This is what the cost is?
Wow.
Really understand what you're doing this for and if it's really worth what you think it is. Do you really want the superiority? Do you really want it if it comes with this type of... I mean, when I talk about hell, I am literal when I talk about it. Very, very... It is very demonic what's going on. Dark. Yeah. Very dark. Very little room for breathing. There is no space for your soul. It does not exist. It is not good. Yeah,
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. So what type of supremacy is worth this? Because this is the cost. This is the cost.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous, too. You're dangerous to yourself and others, to be honest with you. I don't know if you knew that. Maybe you do. Because
I do.
Yeah, I don't know. Your kids, your husband, your family, girlfriend, or whatever, they are being abused by you. When you
that's
feel...
True.
Yeah, I didn't even need to ask.
Yeah.
Because I know that's how I was.
Small child.
That's how I was when I was in that state of failure, where you're literally feel like you're gonna die. Anybody who gets in the way of either your purge, your diet, or your binge, they are your threat. Whether it's your child, your mother, your husband, your dog, it doesn't matter. You will be viciously, toxically abusive.
Yeah.
And then feel bad about it. You know what you're doing. You just don't know how to stop. And then you feel bad about it later. And you think, oh my God, what am I doing? But you can't stop because of the state of hell that you're in. And it's very difficult, too, to explain this to anybody. Because it's hard to understand where it's coming from and why you're carrying this terrible, poisonous state of being. It's poisonous.
Yeah.
The only reason why you're doing this is because you want thinness. So let's go into this thinness and tell me what is worth this type of suffering. And should anybody, any human being, have to suffer to this degree just to be neutral?
Wow.
Because you don't really get any benefit. It's an illusion of benefit. You're just barely making it. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, because no matter any time that I have lost weight, I still just felt like I weighed 1,000 pounds, and I was never satisfied. And
No. So is it a physical problem?
No.
Right? Isn't that an incredible thing to be aware of? Like, why am I seeking solution with the body when it's not a physical problem? It's not a body problem. It's not a body problem. Because even when the body meets your expectations, you still think it's wrong. It did exactly what you wanted it to, and it still is wrong. So, again, and even if you lose the weight and feel gratification from it, it's still not good enough.
No.
Right? It's still not good enough. It could be better, which means relative to better, it's bad. It's not good enough. So everything is just warped. It's just your perspective is always twisted into my body is the enemy. And then you get this resentment around having to restrict food because the body's hurting me. I have to restrict. You know?
Yeah. Having to feel like I have to control everything when it seems like everybody can just do whatever, and be free from thinking about it all the time.
Yeah, but me, I have to think about it all the time. Because my body sucks.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. So wouldn't you, isn't the goal here to not think about the body? Isn't that the goal? Because that's what you think will happen when you're thin enough, right? That's the illusion. That's the mirage. When I'm thin enough, I won't have to think about it anymore. I won't have to hold it into my mind. I won't have to. It'll be done. It's like a destination. I'll check the box. I'll be in the destination. It'll be behind me, and I can move forward with my life. Isn't that the mirage?
Yes. Yep.
I know. That's the illusion.
Everything's going to be better, and I'm going to be able to find my fantasy job and...
Yeah, well, the idea, I'm going to repeat it again.
Wow.
Just go through this in your mind. The idea that you think you're going to get out of this is when I'm thinner, I won't have to think about my body anymore. It will go into the backdrop. It won't be in the front of my face anymore, taking my view. So when I lose the weight, then it won't take any focus, and my vision will be free and open to live my life.
Yeah,
right. Isn't that the mirage?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is very important. Okay, so if there's any detail you get out of this consult, are you ready for it?
Yes.
That's a fucking lie.
Yeah.
You knew it before I even said that because you said it yourself, but it's a lie. You don't get that because when you're thinner, you are now chained to whatever it took to get there. That is your life. You don't get freedom. You get stuck in a trap of perpetual slavery.
Oh my God.
You don't get your freedom. So you've put your entire life on hold for that.
Wow.
On top of that, the drama with food. Constant drama with food. Never going to go away.
Yeah.
Ever. Think about how often you have felt shame for eating.
Every day. Okay. If I'm in front of anybody, it's besides my children. Every day.
Yeah. Shame. Just think about that emotion. Shame is the lowest energy state of consciousness. It's near death. Okay. Shame means I am worthless. And I'm worse than worthless. Right? What is worthy of shame? Let's really go there. What is worthy of shame? Eating a piece of cake? Is that worth shame?
No.
Doesn't that just sound absolutely ridiculous?
Yeah, it does. Wow. It seems so tiny.
Yeah. But
when you say it like that.
But you know what? When you have signed that contract with the devil that says, My life will begin when I'm thin. Well, guess what that does to that piece of cake? Because you devoted yourself to this. You're the one that said, I can do it. I'm amazing and I'm going to do it. I'm going to prove to everybody. And guess what happens now to that piece of cake when you eat it? How do you feel about that? I'm a failure. I'm a failure. Yeah. I'm a piece of shit. Because you personified yourself as this elitist, prideful, self-righteous doer of the dieting.
Wow, yeah.
So you can look at your shame around food and connect it to the self-righteousness you attach to dieting. The elitist supremacy to dieting. You didn't attach superiority and supremacy to dieting like people do in radicalized religions. You wouldn't have shame about it.
Yeah.
But then again, you wouldn't have the narcissistic dieting supremacy if you didn't believe thin people are superior and fat people are shitty.
Right.
You know. So yeah, I mean, this whole thing, if you look at putting your life on pause, complete pause and paralysis, waiting for the body to be thinner enough so that you can reach the destination and then be free to think and be and to access your true humanness, your true humanity. That's hilarious to hear, isn't it? It's like, yeah, no, that's not what happened. That's a joke. That's a joke.
And that's how I've lived all this time.
Well, you know what, too? If you look at the media, that's what they're portraying. Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm a celebrity. And I'm so happy now that I've lost 50 pounds. I'm so happy. My whole life, I'm relaxed. I wear my new outfits and I get to be in public and I feel good about myself again.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I know a couple people who have lost weight, of course, and then their life is all put together, but if you really look behind the scenes, it's not.
Well, if they've attached to that thinnerness, you and I both know they are in hell. In a dark, dark corner somewhere.
Yep.
Because they have to protect that thinness if that's what they're using as proof.
Right.
You have to protect it because you're taking personal ownership as if it's symbolic of your success and my value. If my weight loss is symbolized as my personal symbolic representation of my work ethic and my intelligence, and why would they surrender that, right? If they're using it to inflate their their positionality in society, why would they all of a sudden be okay letting that go? So you and I both know that if they were extreme in trying to acquire it and they're promoting it as symbolic of their superiority, they are in hell.
Yeah.
They have to be. Miserable. I have a client right now who is in her late 70s who spent over 50 years in that position. Her teeth have fallen out, her hair has fallen out because of all the purging and bulimia she carried around for 50 years, promoting her superiority and narcissism.
Wow.
She never told anybody that she had fake teeth. They all fell out.
Yeah.
And that she has terrible alopecia, which has a lot to do with all of that stress, In public, she would rarely eat, and she would be so into herself, shaming everybody who was eating, And she's just she's just now ready to recover after 77 years or something.
Oh my gosh!
Right.
I hope she gets freedom.
So people would be like, look at her. She's so successful. She's got such great self-esteem and confidence. Little do they know that she's got mental health problems and she is self-mutilating.
Yeah. And trying not to kill herself.
Trying to keep the facade going.
Yeah. Wow. It's not worth it.
So where do you go then next? To go, well, there is no relaxation. So the first thing you have to accept is if you choose to continue to chase the mirage, that you're aware that you are choosing permanent obsessive compulsiveness around food and dieting. right? That's important that you get that. That it's not just me saying, you need to understand this. No, it's like you need to go, she's right.
Yeah.
So you don't have to give it up. You just have to accept. I will permanently then suffer with what I need to do to manage my food. And I will permanently have these impulses to binge. Because
I
of that.
I don't want that anymore.
But do you see that there's no way around it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the facade you're chasing, what you're doing is what you get. So if you chase this mirage of thinness equates to freedom, then you are basically accepting that for the illusion of freedom and the facade of freedom, I'm willing to be a slave to that mirage. Because even if I get the thinner body I'm looking for, that is my life. Everything I do to keep it, to maintain it, to present it is my life. That is my quest in life. That's my purpose in life. And that's all I can have. Because that's what it takes, don't you agree, to keep what you're using as a narcissistic supply. It's supplying superiority. You would rather have superiority than freedom.
Oh my gosh. No, I don't want that. Not anymore.
So what's the alternative?
I have to let that go. Mm-hmm. The want to be thin.
Thinner. Just thinner.
Thinner. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't need to be thin. Just thinner than you are. Yeah, even if it's just 10 pounds. It's like, okay, so let's focus on just 10 pounds. How's that going to turn out? So you lose your 10 pounds and then what? You got to keep it. You got to maintain it.
Just keep jumping back into the chain.
You got to check your weight. You got to be careful around food.
Wow.
Oh my God, if you overeat, you now have to do something. Do something. Do something. Do something.
Yeah.
That just gives you anxiety, like.
Yes, my heart is pounding right now.
Yeah, do something. Survival mode, man. It's amazing. It is work. It's working in you right now. It's amazing. Problem is there's really no threat. It's the narcissistic threat. It's the threat to your poofed up supremacy. So, but to a narcissist, that feels like I'm going to die because your whole idea of life is based around I'm a superior human being. Because you pieces of shit are inferior and I'm proving myself better than you.
Oh my gosh.
So your life and death response is hijacked into some inflated idea of who you think you are. So guess what you get for doing that? You get to feel like you're going to die by being normal. I'm normal. I'm average.
Wow.
And to it, but the thing, to the narcissism, it's not average. You're pathetic. Average is you might as well die, you piece of shit.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? Because to narcissism, only the elite survive. You have to be special. If you're not special, psh. And so, you have to be okay being seen as inferior. And accept that what if you are inferior, right? What if you are? What if you actually are? If you told the truth, what if you are actually an inferior human being and you're holding yourself to these superior standards that you clearly are not going to reach because it's outside of your reality? There's no way. What if that's true? I want you to think about that. What if that's true? What if you are, in fact, an inferior human being and you're creating hell for yourself trying to reach a superior standard that is literally never going to happen?
Wow, yeah.
You have to have so many crutches and you have to lie and you have to have all this, armor and facade to just pretend you're superior when in reality you're actually quite inferior.
That's exactly my life, my whole life right there.
So, well, what if you are inferior and if you can be okay with that? Because that's the truth.
Yeah, I am.
Now you're free. Now you're like, fuck it. Now I don't have to do anything. I can just be where I'm at. I don't have to lie anymore. I don't have to pretend. I don't have to prove myself. I can just play the role as the dumbass. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
How would that change things for you if you just admitted and came out of the closet as the special needs human being you are?
Yeah. Then I could just enjoy life and enjoy my 4-year-old and.
You mean what you thought you'd get out of thin supremacy and superior narcissism?
Yeah.
You mean you'd actually get the freedom that you're chasing through self-abuse and narcissistic hell? You can have that without the narcissism?
Wow.
And without all of the baggage that comes with it. Right? Plus it's a freaking lie. So if you accept that you are inferior, just tell the truth. I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm really not all that.
Yeah.
I'm just like the people I judged. I'm just like that. In truth.
Wow. Yep.
You know? What happens for you? What happens? Go there again. What happens?
I get to enjoy my life without all the struggle.
No. Think about how that would change how you perceive. Let's just go into just who you are.
I don't even know who I am right now.
Well, the coolest thing is you get to just accept whatever it is. You don't have to create it.
Yeah.
You just accept whatever it is. I don't have to pretend to be something I'm not. I don't even have to know what I am. It exists. It's there. I exist. I'm alive. I'm alive. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Did you ever really mean harm to anybody?
No.
Okay, so you got that going for you. So you know you're not a terrible human being that actually wants to harm anybody. You don't want to harm anybody.
Right.
That's not religion. That's not something that's been brainwashed into you. That's authentic, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Like you're safe to be around. You're actually quite safe when you're in your natural self. Because you don't want or intend to hurt anybody.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that worth something?
Yes.
I think that's worth everything, to be honest with you.
It is.
Yeah. What if that's all? What if that's it? What if that is all you need? That's all that's true. You mean no harm. I mean no harm.
I can live with that.
Right?
Yeah.
So tell me this, what happens to this circus, this terrible sideshow circus, demented, mutilating sideshow circus that the dieting and the binging has done in your life? What happens to that whole entire circus?
It stops.
Right?
Yeah, it does.
Because you don't have to, you're not at war with your body anymore, right? Because because you're okay with your inferiority. Now, what does that do to how you relate to your body? I'm okay with inferiority. In fact, inferiority is the route to happiness.
Wow.
Right? What does that do to how you feel about the body that has provided you this existence, this life, this consciousness, this awareness this whole time? You've hated it. You made it your biggest enemy, and this whole time it's still giving you everything you need to go to sleep, to wake up, right?
Yeah.
To have babies, gave you all of that graciously and lovingly and did it perfectly for you. You know, the body has loved you, whether you liked it, hated it, or appreciated it. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
You know,
it makes me feel grateful for it.
Right? But thank goodness it wasn't narcissistic towards you.
Oh my gosh.
You would have been out of here a long time ago. It would have said, fuck you, I'm done.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I want you to go back into this thought process. So if you would rather be inferior, go to that thought process.
Okay.
Wouldn't you compare what you've been doing for the illusion? Remember, it's an inflated lie to everyone around you and yourself that you're better than you actually are. And everything that did. And all the hell and the dark, demented psycho crazy train that went with it, right? Or inferiority. Telling the truth. Which one would you rather?
Inferiority.
Right? Oh my God. So you come out of the closet and say, look, everybody, I'm fat. I'm middle-aged, so I'm too old now. What else? I'm not smart enough. I'm not religious enough.
I'm not the super mom.
Yeah, Jesus isn't going to save me. Whatever it is. I'm a sinner.
Yeah.
Because that's the truth. Again, we're just saying just be truthful about everything. Just expose everything. Once you do that, and people have their opinions, oh my God, you're a quitter. You quit. You're lazy. They can think all they want, right? Which one's worse? Exposing, complete and full exposure of the truth, and accepting your inferiority? Or continuing to do what you're doing to hide the truth, pretend that you're better than you are, and inflating yourself to prove that you're not? Which one?
The truth is better.
Right? Because don't you agree that even the fear of exposure is fleeting? It's like you do it once and everybody knows that you suck.
Yeah.
Look, my house isn't big enough. Oh, my car isn't perfect enough. My kids don't have the smartest grades. They're normal too. You know, all of the shit, everything comes crashing down and you're left with truth. And once that truth is exposed, people who think you're inferior leave you. Right?
Wow, yeah.
And then what? Will you ever be afraid of rejection and abandonment again?
I guess not, because I had already gone through it.
Well, and you've suffered greatly trying to avoid it.
Yeah.
So you have to question then, are you really afraid of that? Or are you willing to suffer again and to avoid it? Want me to re-say that?
Yeah, please. I've kind of put myself in a situation where I don't have a lot of people outside of me. I can't even think of the word right now. I'm just at home with my family, and that's it.
Yeah, but even then it doesn't...
Isolated, so...
Yeah, yes, but that's because of fear of rejection and abandonment. So you just isolate yourself. You reject and abandon everybody around you in fear that they're going to... Yes, this is what happens to narcissists that are not doing well. So let's just... Because if you're to come out of this closet, you can either continue to... and I guarantee, oh my God, I guarantee this whole time you're thinking, when I'm thin enough, I will go out in public.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're holding yourself hostage, as if that's the right thing to do. It's going to motivate you to be more restrictive with your food. Isolating yourself from human natural desire to be a pack animal is going to motivate you to keep on restricting food.
Yeah.
Do you hear how fucked up that is? Like, no.
Yes.
You isolate yourself as a pack animal, and your need for food's going to go up.
Yeah.
It doesn't go down. It goes up. Right?
Yep.
So all because you're too prideful. I don't want anybody to find out I'm a loser, that I'm actually inferior. I don't want them to find out that I'm a failure, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what I was saying is you hide and sacrifice your life in fear of disapproval, rejection, judgment, and abandonment. Okay? Or you free yourself by accepting rejection, abandonment, and disapproval.
Yeah.
You know?
I want that.
Right? No. Yeah. So this is what I meant by after this, it's like, whose opinion is worth suffering for?
No one's.
Right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you're like, I will never lie about who I am to protect someone else's shitty criticism.
Yeah.
So that they'll approve of me. I remember thinking very clearly, I have spent my entire life changing who I was for other people to accept me. I would accept whatever music they wanted to listen to. I would try to sculpt myself into who they were, thinking that that would get them to love me, and in fear of their rejection, right?
Yeah.
I was afraid to say I didn't like country music. I mean, I kind of like country music, but you know, at the time I really was into hip hop, right?
Yeah.
And so it was like I was afraid to say I was into hip hop because I wanted them to like me. You know what I'm saying? Something so dumb like that.
Yeah,
you reject yourself. You reject your authentic reality in pursuit of someone else's reality.
Exactly. That's what I've always done.
Yeah, and that's what this is.
I don't even know who I am because it's so made up of everybody else's, what they think is good for me, or what I perceive they think is good for me, or, Wow.
Yeah, and so that's where this, if you look at everything you're doing with food and dieting, it's all for that reason. Because people will love me more when I'm thinner. And once I get thinner and I have their approval, I can then be myself. Which is like so opposite of what you're doing, which is not real in any way. It's all fictitious lies around social dogma. These are all systems in place to tell you who you are, and if you become real and authentic, you're seen as inferior.
Yeah.
And the facade is that if you become systemized, it's superior, and that's where you get your freedom. Because you become because it's a lie, it's not real, it's fictitious. You've been brainwashed and programmed. It's not real. Remember when I said to you, you got this hard drive and you put in a disc, and the people said, put this disc in and it'll take you and bring you into a whole other state of being. You're not even going to be a hard drive anymore. And no, you just got uploaded with a bunch of viruses, right? So the way you eject the disc is by saying, I don't want what they were selling me, which is superiority. I don't want it. I'd rather just be my old inferior hard drive. Because that's what's inborn. That's what's truthful. So what if I'm slow? Why is that something to be ashamed about? What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
That's the truth. If I can be okay with that, then I don't need other people to be okay with it. And I think that's something you have to look at too. Go into the inferiority. If you're okay with inferiority, do you need other people to be okay with it too?
Not anymore.
Well, because if you're okay with it, no one else's opinion really matters.
Yeah.
Because you're okay with it. They don't have to be okay with it. If they want superiority, they should go for it. Go for it. Figure this out. Figure it out. There's a point of diminishing returns. The benefit of that pride is output. Look at the freaking output. It's awe-inspiring, isn't it? The insanity. Look at all the work you did just to lie about yourself. It's incredible, right? It's like, holy shit. I mean, you could have gotten like 3 different PhDs at this point with that type of energy.
Yeah. No
so
kidding.
There's an incredible amount of energy that comes out of pride. Problem is it's directed towards a lie, like an inflated idea of who you think you are that has nothing to do with who you really are. Right? It's an illusion of what you think you want people to think rather than who you actually are.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a projected idea of what you want people to think. Like, in Star Wars where the lady's like, Obi-Wan, what is that called? It comes out of the screen. It's
like a hologram.
Yeah, you're trying to create a hologram of who you want people to think you are. Look, that's what I am. I'm so amazing. It's a hologram, and that you don't think it's a hologram in your mind, and you're projecting it out as if it's real, but it's actually a hologram. It doesn't ever exist ever.
Yeah.
It's just a hologram.
Oh wow. Like a highlight reel on social media.
It's not even true, and no one around you actually knows you're doing it. Just you're doing it, going, "This is who I really am," and the reality is still there, whether it's you accept it or not.
Yeah, and I've just been full of shit the whole time.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't your shit. This is a socially accepted dogmatic shit. So you can't even it's like don't you think? I mean, if you look back, you didn't know what you were doing. This is all innocent. Any child would do this. Anybody who felt this way, any human being that feels that way about themselves or is afraid of that in themselves would do the same thing. Why are we judging that?
Yeah.
It just, you've now suffered so much that you just have to really look at it and go, is this still worth it? Would I choose to project a hologram of who I think of what I want people to think I am, when it comes at such a huge cost to my soul, my spirit, and my entire life? Because I'm constantly trying to portray the hologram. And if I can't do it successfully, I isolate myself from reality as if I'm dead. I might as well die.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So if you want freedom from the hologram, you have to eject it from the hard drive and say, I'd rather have what I don't even know exists in me. I don't have a sense of anything other than that old hologram, but I'd rather not have it and be completely left at zero like a toddler than to continue to project a hologram that I know is not true, it is fake, and I don't want it anymore. I do not want that hologram.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want to start fresh and find out who, or explore who I really am.
Okay, so we start with how you relate to the body. Are you the body?
No.
Isn't that wonderful news?
Yeah.
Because then it doesn't really matter, right? If you look at the body that you have in the mirror, it really represents how shitty the dieting was.
Yeah, exactly.
How toxic dieting is to your relationship with food. So even if the question you have to ask yourself is, what do you need from the body then? What do you really need from this body?
Just to keep me alive.
Yeah. Well, if it's doing that, what next? Do you need to sit back and tell it what it should look like, what it should do, how it should behave, how it should feel, how it shouldn't feel?
No, just take care of it with whatever it asks for, I guess.
Yeah, it's really easy. It's like, what does it really need? Well, when I'm tired, I go to sleep. When I'm awake, I go out and do something fun, right? If I'm hungry, I'll eat. How much should you eat? Oh my God, how much should you eat? Oh my God, how much should I eat? Well, does it really matter? That's like saying, how much should I pee? Robin, I don't know how much urine I should urinate.
Wow, right.
Well, when it's done, it's done. You put your pants up. So it's very basic. It's so easy. So you push, all you do is push eject. And then you take that and you go, I will never install that one again. The only way to eject it is to accept the body you have right now, because the entire premise of that programming, right, that you installed is to be thin. So to push eject, what do you have to do?
I have to reject the idea of ever being thin, or the high I get from thinking I might be, or
you have to decide that you'd rather not, that you're okay not being thin, that you don't want to think about thinness. You don't want thinness to be anywhere in your scope of thought process anymore. You don't want it to be your focus. You don't want to be defining. You don't care. Again, the cost of recovery, you have to push eject to the thin disc.
Okay.
The only way to push eject from thinness is to accept what you have. And whatever it's going to be, right? You have to say, but then I won't be able to control it. Nope, none of your business. Isn't that what you want?
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing that keeps coming to my mind right now, I don't want to be stuck on this, but my husband has the same kind of issues where he doesn't think he can live his life right now because he's overweight. And so we obviously have like intimacy issues there because of our weight. And I don't feel like if I accept myself, I don't know how to deal with if he doesn't accept me the way I am. But he has all this time, so I mean,
This is very simple. Do you want to keep on suffering for his acceptance?
Oh my gosh.
Is his acceptance really worth this? If his acceptance requires that you continue to live in that dark hole of despair, do you want it?
No. Mm-mm. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So you have to be willing to take that risk that if you surrender this to fight for your life, if he really loves you, if he truly, really loves you, what do you think he's going to want for you? Does he want you to suffer for his sexual pleasure in your thinner ideology? Or does he just want you to feel good about yourself? And that's really what he wants for you.
Yeah, I think that's what he would really...
Yeah, well what do you want? And in the end, it doesn't really matter what he wants.
Right. I just want to be free from it.
So you have to really accept what that freedom entails, is that if he doesn't really love you, he loved the idea of you being thinner. It probably is not the best of marriages anyways. Just a thought.
Right. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So you really, the other thing too is that you've been lying to him. You've been lying. So you need to present who you really are. And the funny thing is that he probably really likes who you really are, and you're the one that's fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yep, he does. I can see that he does. And he doesn't like who I am while I'm in this cage.
No, and he might, and the thing is this, is he's probably not the asshole you are, and he just wants to support whatever makes you feel good about yourself, because when you feel good about yourself, which is i.e. narcissistic, you have sex with him. So, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So he doesn't care whatever it is, she'll have sex with me.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
But either way, you need to go in your fear that he might reject you. Yes. Don't deny it. Don't try to hide from that. When you come out of the closet, you're coming out to him too. That I am done suffering. This has damaged my soul. This has damaged my life. I cannot continue for another 40 goddamn years.
Yeah.
This is it. I'm done. I'm done with junior high. Junior high went way beyond what it was supposed to.
Wow. Yeah, exactly.
Right? Do we really need to pretend like only the skinny girls are popular?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I know. You hear that and you're like, what? Oh my God, I've been stuck in that framework for decades.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Like you're still playing that projection from junior high and high school as if it's relevant. I need to be thin to prove myself. Only thin people are popular and cool.
Wow. Yeah. Somehow I knew that when I was like, or thought that way when I was like 7.
And when you were 40. Don't forget 40.
Yeah, and all the way up to now. Yeah. Wow.
Only thinner people are worth anything. There's no quality of human besides people that are so qualified that they starve themselves enough to then prove themselves. Because they're capable of anorexia. And those are the people we want to promote. Those are the people we want to admonish and praise.
Yeah. Wow.
It's funny. I know it's silly. It's worthy of laughing. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So then you go, so what if I'm fat? So what? The fatness that you have makes a lot of sense. It shouldn't be like, what? How'd this happen?
Yeah.
No, look at the extremism in the dieting. The extremism, the radicalism in your way of thinking about food. Deprivation. And what that does to the need and want to eat. I mean, you're trying to repress natural food consumption. It's like repressing sex. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, you want it more.
Repressing your natural desire to be with other humans and connecting with other humans. What happens when you take a human and you isolate them from contact with others? Should we judge that when they become, hyperactive in public? Have anxiety in public? Should we shame them?
Wow. Yeah. Aw.
Yeah, I mean, look at you feeling all ashamed about yourself, even though you're holding yourself hostage, wondering why you're so crazy. Oh my God.
Wow.
Have some compassion for what you're seeing in the mirror. Like, have some compassion for how this happened. This didn't just happen to you. This didn't happen to you. You did this by implementing starvation type diets to include the protocol.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And years and years of looking in the mirror thinking that it was something wrong with my body and the food that I'm eating. No.
Never questioning that there's something wrong with thin supremacy.
Yeah.
Never questioned maybe there's something wrong with thin supremacy. Do you think maybe there might be something wrong with the idea that people are only valuable if they're thin? And their thinness is a representation of their superiority? Is there something wrong with that, maybe?
Yeah.
What do you think it is? What do you think is wrong with that? What happens when people believe that? What do you think the downside is?
People feel, well, I guess inferior if you're not that, if you don't fit into that.
How would you describe the inferiority through emotions? What type of emotions are attached to the inferiority? If you teach thin supremacy is the idol to be worshipped and the only route to happiness and freedom, what should people expect?
What should people expect if they don't have that? Or
what's the downside? Remember when we were just talking about you never thought to question thin supremacy is what's wrong? If you teach thin supremacy, you teach thin people are superior.
Oh, yes, yeah.
What should a culture expect?
My brain won't wrap around it right now.
So let's think of it this differently. Let's imagine you're going to go into an unexplored world, and there's a group of people, and we want to teach them thin people are better people. We're going to dogmatically say this comes from God. This is a dogmatic belief. God says thinner people are better people. And we fearmonger this into a town of 500 people. What should we expect from this culture of 500 people that we are basically dogmatically teaching them that they have to be thin to be seen as superior? And we start taking the thinner people in that group and we put them on pedestals. Look at her. She's amazing. Don't you want to be like her? What do you think is going to happen to that culture? What do you think? What should we expect as a consequence?
That people would start restricting their food to try and get there.
Yes.
And excessively exercise and feel shameful if they didn't fit that mold.
Yep.
Yeah.
And people that have the shame, what do they end up doing? Hiding.
Yeah.
And what do you think they do as they prepare to diet? What do you think they're doing with food as they prepare to restrict?
Binging
Oh
on
my God.
as much of whatever they can get.
And then we're going to say, oh, you're addicted to food. You're addicted. You have mental health problems. You're addicted.
Yeah.
But those thinner people, we're going to say, look, you are just so controlled. You have what it takes.
Yeah, you're on top of your game. You've got this.
I'm so proud of you. What did you do? Tell us how to be more like you. Okay, do you see how predictable this is?
Yeah. Wow. Yep.
And then why do the people who are overweight feel they have issues with low self-esteem? Why? Why do they have depression? What do you think?
Wow. Yeah, it's because of the shame of not fitting into that mold. And all the time I thought it was because of the hormones from the fat and,
oh, yes.
You know.
Yeah, whatever the diet industry told you. Selling some type of supplement. Yeah, they're selling you their newest breakthrough diet.
Yeah, cleanse or exercise.
For sure, and that'll help your self-esteem. Because you'll be thinner. And then you'll be, oh my God, you'll feel so good about yourself when you're thinner.
Wow.
Right? Use our cleanse. Your depression will go away when you lose the weight.
Oh, that is exactly what the leader of the group I joined last week messaged me and said, I used to go through this anxiety and depression, and after, I've lost 40 pounds and I'm eating better foods and eating clean. It's cleared up, and I just want that for you in your life. And oh my gosh, it just hooked me.
And because you're dirty, you're shameful and dirty, and you're eating dirty food, you shameful piece of shit.
Yeah.
You'd be so much happier if you weren't so fat and lazy and ugly.
Exactly. Yeah.
You would feel so much better about yourself if you were thinner.
Yeah.
No one questions the thin supremacy, do they?
No.
And the crazy thing, too, is you have a lot of evidence that this has been so destructive and toxic to your self-worth, which you don't necessarily know who you are. You've lost that along the way, but it's also been so destructive to how you relate to the body. It's toxic and it's demonstrative. It's demonic.
Yeah.
You're positioning a perfectly good body to be just disgusted. You're disgusted by a perfectly good body. Right? You wouldn't be so disgusted if you didn't believe in thin supremacy. The only reason you feel bad about it is because you have this beautiful statue that you're to worship, and it's thin. It's a thin statue, right? You wouldn't be positioned to be so disgusted by a perfectly good body if there wasn't some superior standard of thin supremacy that you're holding it to.
Yeah.
If you didn't hold it to that superior standard of thin supremacy, would you have such a toxic relationship with food and dieting?
No.
None of this food issue would even exist if you didn't believe in thin supremacy.
Wow.
right? So remember when I said you got a disc in there, we need to eject it. So if you eject the thin supremacy programming, you're not going to be thinner, right? Because the programming says they will help you lose the weight. So this is what I think is so wolf in sheep's clothing is the people. So where is this thin supremacy coming from? Where is it coming from?
Yeah.
It's not a church, right? It's not like we have a religion that says we're the thin supremacists, come hang out with us thin supremacists. It's not that obvious, right?
Right.
It's not like the white supremacist douchebags, right?
Right.
That make it very clear we believe white people are superior. It's not like you have pickets around thin supremacy. Only thin people matter, None of that.
Yeah.
So where is this coming from?
The media.
Which is selling what?
Yeah, selling thinness and diets.
It's diets.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So no one questions the diet industry because they're helping us. Oh my God, they're coming to our rescue. But they're the ones promoting the thinner ideology. So not only are they the church of thinness, but they are selling you the systems to reach it. So you have to remove dieting.
Yeah.
So if you remove dieting, what's the hope that it'll ever be thinner?
Wow. Yeah. I'll never be able to do it without a diet.
Nope.
So I just have to accept it.
And but then there's like the healthier diets. Well, I'll just do it healthy. Oh, so now we're talking about a very dark sheep in wolf's clothing, the darkest of all sheep in wolf's clothing, or the darkest wolf in the whitest sheep's clothing. I'm pure white sheep in the darkest wolf, right?
Yeah.
Which is do it for your health. Do it for your mental well-being. You need to be thinner for health. You're going to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Never really looking at the diet that they're selling is actually triggered to the impulsivity to the food you're eating and shame because they tell you that that food is dirty. It's bad, dangerous. Never look at that.
Yeah, exactly. Only eat clean food, organic.
Just think of that word. Just think of the verbiage. Clean eating. So clean, pure and clean.
So that I'm dirty when I eat a piece of pizza or have a French fry.
Yeah, you're dirty. And you inherently believe there's something wrong with what you're doing. Why?
Yeah. Wow.
Why should anybody be ashamed and feel that they've done wrong by eating a French fry?
Right.
Potato fried in oil with salt. Yum.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with me that I like it? Well, you're an addict. Oh, is that really what's going on? Or is that just one way to continue to keep people brainwashed into doing the same thing over and over again by people who are actually making money selling it? You need my sugar detox. You need it. But keep in mind, the only reason why it's even there is because of thin supremacy.
Yeah.
Again, the people selling the detox are the ones who are promoting thin supremacy.
Wow. It just makes me want to check out of all the social media and everything.
Well,
turn my cable off for a while.
Well, that's not going to do anything. What you have to do is actually look at if you knew what you know now, would you internalize that the same way? Would you just blindly believe thin people are better people?
That's true. No. Yeah. I get that now. Yeah.
Yeah. What's going to be more effective here in your recovery? Avoiding media or changing your underlying beliefs about thin supremacy?
Changing my beliefs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because in the end, you're not going to change any of that. You're not going to change that.
Yeah.
There's no changing the media. That business is making a lot of money,
Yeah. It had me. That's what happened is I spent $200 last week on that thing on their program, and then I thought, oh my gosh, That's why I called you. I got a refund from them. I'm like, I'm going to call Robin because I thought you were going to help me. You are going to help me.
But I'm not going to help you get your thinnerness. You see
No.
what I'm... Now I want you to think about...
the...
Now I want you to think about that whole goal. I can control my food so then I could be thinner. Then I can be thinner.
I don't even care about that right now.
Well, what you need to care about is I want my life back, even if it feels like I'm like 7.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you just rather, because it's truthful, at least it's true. I remember thinking, I feel like I'm 4 years old. Well, that's the truth. So I'm emotionally 4 in a 20-year-old body. So that's the truth. I cannot afford to lie anymore about where I'm at. So fuck it.
Right.
You know. Now I'm 40. You and I are the same age.
Wow.
I love it. I'm loving 40.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time with it because I still feel like I'm probably a toddler in my brain.
Wouldn't you rather figure
like,
this out now? Don't you?
Yes.
I mean, and this is something I remember thinking. I've already fucked my life up. I've already ruined it. I'm close to, if not right at the cusp of suicide. Why can't I just start my life over without killing this body and just like reboot?
Right.
Just, I've already fucked it up. In terms of religion, I'm going to hell. I had sex before marriage. I'm dirty. So can't rewind that, right? So I rebooted and said, I don't want religion in my life. The guilt and the shame is destructive. I'd rather not. I'd rather be real and let God know who I am in reality than to have to conform to a religion for God to like me. I don't want that God. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I had to reboot so many layers of brainwashing.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, who I am as a woman. Who am I as an American? Who am I as a human being that is no this or that, who or what? You know, it's like just be myself. And you know what? I'm okay with inferiority, starting from the body that I have down to my intelligence is dumb. I'm not emotionally mature enough. My hair is wrong. Everything about me is wrong. And you know what? I'm good with that. Because if I'm good with that, that means I'm free to tell the truth from within myself. I won't hide myself from myself.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what you've been doing. You've been hiding your truth from yourself because you're afraid that it's going to be inferior to the socialized standard that we're brainwashed to believe in. And
yeah.
I realize I'm totally fine with being inferior. So if I'm okay being inferior of what is expected, then I don't have to hide myself from myself. I can just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. Open that throat chakra. Let it glow, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So what? So what if you suck? What if you are dumb? So what if you're inferior? Mm-hmm. I'm inferior.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so freeing.
Yeah, because it doesn't mean that you don't have drive or want to do things. It's just you're now doing it from an inherent source of truth now. So if I want to go out and do yard work, I'm not doing it to prove anything. I'm doing it out of the pure joy and love I get from it. So now I can be creative. So now you're in a creative space rather than a paralyzed space of fear. I'm not afraid. So because I'm not afraid of inferiority. So do you see how the fact that I'm good with inferiority really promotes creativity?
Yeah, it really does. And follow through, because I've started so many different projects that I've seen on the internet or whatever, and like nothing ever works out because it's not really me. It's not.
Yeah, you're using it to promote something. You're using it to cope for something more than likely, which is why it doesn't finish.
Yeah.
It's like an overreach. You're trying to find some sense of value in yourself, and you're doing it with something that's outside of your reality. Why can't you just finger paint?
Right.
You know, what's wrong with finger painting? Yeah. What's wrong with fill in the dot painting? Those are fun.
Yeah.
So what? You know, let yourself be that kid that's like just did something. You're like, Mom, look, and it looks like shit, and she's like, oh, it's great.
It's great. Yeah.
Whatever it is, because it's authentic. It's true. It's coming from you. It's not because you were forced to do it in hope for approval, you know?
Right.
All right. So we're coming to the close here.
Okay.
So here's how this works. You and I, is this something you want to keep on doing, or what's your plan?
I would like to. Are you still recording right now?
Yeah, let me end it.